Sister scoffed. You cut them off for attention. Not realizing nobody knew until she announced it, the word attention was still hanging there when 3 forks clinked against plates at the same time. My cousin stopped mid-bite. My aunt's eyebrows shot up, her wine glass hovering halfway to her mouth. Someone at the other end of the table actually said, "Wait, what?" My face went hot so fast I could feel it in my ears. The restaurant noise. Cutlery, low music, someone's kid laughing at the table behind us. Suddenly felt miles away. All I could hear was my own pulse and the sound of my sister's bracelets jangling as she reached for the bread basket like she hadn't just detonated a grenade in the middle of my cousin's birthday dinner. I started, my hand tightening around my napkin until the paper tore. My throat felt too small. My brain was doing that thing where it tries to sprint in 10 directions at once. Convince everyone she's wrong. Don't start drama at the restaurant. Don't cry. Don't scream. Don't dissociate. My aunt leaned forward and put her hand on my arm like she was trying to ground me and interrogate me at the same time. "Cut who off?" she asked slowly, even though we all knew exactly who. My sister rolled her eyes and stabbed a piece of chicken. "Mom and Dad, obviously," she said. She went no contact. It's her new personality. It didn't start at that table. It didn't start with some petty sibling fight or a dramatic announcement. It started almost a year ago, on a Tuesday night, sitting cross-legged on my own couch, staring at a text from my therapist that said, "It is okay to prioritize your safety and mental health, even if your family doesn't understand. I'm 29 now. I moved out at 20 and I've been in this little 2-bedroom unit with mismatched furniture and too many plants for 5 years. To my parents, it's still that shoebox you're wasting your money on. To me, it's the first place that ever really felt like mine. I didn't go no contact overnight. That's the part people like my sister don't see. They see the final decision and act like it was some impulsive tantrum, not the last inch on a marathon of tiny cuts. Growing up, our house looked normal from the outside. 2-story brick, front yard with a struggling rose bush, my dad washing the car on Sundays, my mom waving at neighbors with that tight smile she reserved for public consumption. People would say things like, "Your parents are so involved," because they showed up at school events and signed permission slips on time. No one saw the way the air in the house changed depending on the sound of Dad's key in the door, or how my mom could stop talking to you like you didn't exist for days if you said the wrong thing. I was the oldest. My sister, Mia, is 26. There's a brother in the middle too, but he bolted interstate the first chance he got and only really comes back for Christmas out of a weird sense of duty. From the time we were little, I was the responsible one, which in our house meant built-in third parent, emotional sponge, and designated lightning rod. Mia was the princess. That's not an insult. That's literally what they called her. Our little princess. If she cried, it was a crisis. If I cried, I was being dramatic. When she forgot her homework, my mom wrote an email blaming the teacher for not being clear enough. When I forgot mine, I got a 20-minute lecture about how I'd never get into uni with that attitude. My parents weren't monsters. There were good moments. My dad teaching me how to ride a bike. My mom sitting on my bed brushing my hair and humming along to the radio. Family movie nights with popcorn. That's partly what made it so hard to name the bad stuff. You don't want to slap the word abuse on people who took you to the dentist and made you birthday cakes. But there were patterns. The silent treatment, days of it. The door slamming. The way a minor mistake could turn into a character assassination. Being laughed at in front of relatives for things I told them in confidence. Threats to kick me out if I didn't like the rules. Then there were the invasions. At 14, I came home from school and found my diary open on the kitchen table. Certain pages marked with sticky notes. My mom sat there, arms folded, quoting lines at me like she was cross-examining a witness. "So you hate this house and you don't feel safe," she said. My cheeks burned so badly I thought I'd faint. I mumbled something about being emotional. She laughed. "You get that from me," she said. "I was dramatic at your age too." Then she brought it up in front of my aunt at Easter. "Remember when you wrote you don't feel safe? You were so silly." Everyone laughed. I learned not to write things down after that. By the time I hit 27, the anxiety I'd been sidestepping for years decided it wasn't going to be background noise anymore. My heart would randomly slam into overdrive at work, my hands shaking as I typed. I started waking up at 3 a.m. convinced I'd forgotten to do something, that someone was disappointed in me, that I'd messed up in a way I couldn't fix. My GP suggested therapy. My therapist, Amanda, was the first person who looked at me and said, "If this was a friend telling you this, what word would you use?" I told her everything in a raw, rambly mess. The diary, the silent treatments, the time my dad took my bedroom door off its hinges because I slammed it, the way my mom threatened to drag you back home by your hair. When I was 22 and said I might move in with my boyfriend, I didn't want to say the word. Abusive felt too big, too dramatic. The thing my parents would mock if they heard it. But sitting there on a cheap couch with a box of tissues between us, the word snuck out anyway. "It sounds kind of abusive," I whispered. Amanda didn't flinch. She just nodded, gentle but firm. "Yeah," she said. "It does. Once you've named it, it becomes harder to unsee." I started noticing things in real time instead of only realizing afterwards why my stomach hurt. Like how a normal phone call with my mom could pivot in 3 seconds from, "How's work?" to, "So when are you giving me grandchildren?" to, "I guess your career is more important than family." to, "You never call. You know, you don't care about us." We tried talking about it. I didn't just ghost them. I did the responsible eldest child thing. Sat them down one weekend when I came over for dinner, rehearsed sentences in my car beforehand. Mia was at the table too, scrolling on her phone. "I've been working on some stuff in therapy," I said, palms sweating, "about boundaries and our relationship. I really want us to have a healthier way of dealing with conflict." My dad frowned like I just told him I joined a cult. "What's wrong with our way?" I took a breath. "When you ignore me for days or call me names when you're angry, it really affects me. I get anxious waiting for the next explosion. I'd like to find different ways to handle disagreements." My mom's mouth dropped open. "We do not ignore you," she said. I almost laughed. "Mom, you didn't speak to me for 4 days last year because I couldn't come over on your birthday." "I was hurt," she snapped. "That's different." "You slammed a plate on the table and called me a selfish cow," I said. My voice was shaking. She pointed at my hand. "See how she twists everything?" she said to my dad. "Her therapist is filling her head with nonsense." Mia snorted. "Oh my God. My name," she said, putting her phone down. "You always have to make it about you. Everyone gets yelled at sometimes. You're not special." "What I'm saying is," Dad cut me off. "You're saying we're bad parents," he said. "After everything we've done for you." It went downhill from there. My attempts at "I feel" statements got bulldozed by 20 years of "you're ungrateful" and "you're too sensitive." I left with a splitting headache and a confirmation of something I'd been trying not to accept. They weren't just going to wake up one day and decide to be different. The last straw came a couple months after that. I'd stopped answering every single call immediately because my therapist and I were working on me not jumping every time my phone lit up. I was at work one afternoon, in the middle of a meeting, when my phone buzzed 4 times in a row. MUM flashed on the screen. I silenced it. Then Dad. Then MUM again. My chest tightened, but I shoved my phone in my bag. When I came out an hour later, I had 12 missed calls and 3 voicemails. The first voicemail was my mom crying and saying, "We could be dead in a ditch and you wouldn't know." The second was my dad yelling, "When I call, you answer. I don't care what you're doing." The third was just heavy breathing and then a hang-up. By the time I got home that evening, my dad was parked outside my building. He'd driven 40 minutes unannounced. He was standing by the front door, arms folded, like a bouncer. My stomach dropped. "Why the hell weren't you answering your phone?" he demanded before I'd even said hello. "I was in a meeting," I said, keys clutched in my palm like a weapon. "At work. You can't just." "I don't give a shit about your meeting," he said, stepping closer. "You don't ignore your parents. Ever." I could feel neighbors' curtains twitching. I felt 5 years old and 40 at the same time. "I didn't ignore," I said. I was busy. This is exactly what I mean. You escalate everything. He threw his hands up. There she goes, he said. Miss therapy. Miss boundaries. So what, we're not allowed to worry now? We're not allowed to call our own daughter? Is that abuse too? I remember thinking, if anyone else talked to me like this, I'd block their number. That thought felt like blasphemy. That night, after he finally left in a storm of muttering and accusations, I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea I wasn't drinking, and wrote an email. I couldn't trust myself on the phone. I cave or lose my temper or both. It was 3 paragraphs. I said I loved them. I said I needed space. I said the current dynamic was damaging my mental health and I was going to take a break from contact to figure out what, if any, relationship I could manage in future. I didn't call it no contact in the email. I didn't send out a press release. I hit send at 11:42 p.m., turned my phone off, and sat there shaking. It felt like jumping off a cliff with no idea if there was water or concrete below. For the first couple of weeks, it was weirdly quiet. My dad sent a couple of, "So this is it then?" messages. My mom sent a long one about how disappointed she was and how real families work through things instead of running away. I didn't reply. That was the deal I'd made with myself. No replies. No defending. No jade ing. Justify. Argue. Defend. Explain. Thanks. Therapy vocabulary. I told about 5 people, my therapist, my boyfriend, my best friend, my boss, because I was a wreck for a bit and needed some slack, and eventually Mia. I didn't tell extended family. I didn't post anything. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was trying not to implode. The conversation with Mia went about how you'd expect. You what? She said over the phone. I emailed them. I said, I need space. I can't keep doing this. She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. You're being so extra, she said. Just ignore their calls when they annoy you. You don't have to make it a whole thing. It already is a whole thing, I said. Every day. I feel sick whenever my phone rings. That's not normal. Everyone feels like that sometimes, she said. What, you think my life is a picnic? I just don't make it everyone's problem. I'm not making it. Whatever, she cut in. You always loved attention. I almost didn't go to our cousin Hannah's birthday dinner a couple months later. It was the first big family thing since the email. Mom and Dad weren't coming. Apparently they were too busy, which is code for we're sulking. I texted Hannah privately and said, I'd love to come, but is it going to be weird? She replied, I just want you there. If people make it weird, that's on them. So I went. I wore a dress I liked. I brought a plant for her new apartment. At first, it was fine. Small talk. How's work? Still with that guy? Have you seen the new season of? I could feel some curious looks, but no one asked directly why my parents weren't there. I decided to take the win. It was when Hannah went to the bathroom and the conversation lulled that my aunt, Mom's sister, turned to Mia and said, So, how's your mom doing? I haven't seen her in weeks. Mia shrugged, taking a sip of her wine. Stressed, she said. What with being cut off and all? My stomach did a full Olympic flip. I stared at her. She met my eyes for half a second, smirked, then looked back at our aunt. Cut off? My aunt repeated. That's when Mia scoffed and dropped the line. Oh, didn't you hear? My name. Went no contact for attention. She did this little air quotes motion with her fingers, like it was a punchline. Apparently we're toxic now. It's her whole thing. And that's how the table found out. Not from me, quietly, one-on-one with nuance. From my sister performing it. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my tongue. I wanted to disappear under the table. At the same time, a part of me, the tired, angry part, wanted to stand up on my chair and yell. If I wanted attention, I would have posted this on Facebook, not silently had panic attacks for 3 months. Instead, I just sat there for a second, stunned, as everyone's heads turned toward me. Is that true? My aunt asked gently. I swallowed. My throat felt raw, like I'd been screaming even though I hadn't said anything yet. I did send them an email, I said. My voice sounded far away. I needed some space. Space, Mia repeated, rolling her eyes. She cut them off. She blocked their numbers. She doesn't come over. But if you ask her, she's the victim. Mia, stop, I said quietly. She laughed. What? You don't want people to know? No, I said. I didn't want it announced like gossip at someone else's birthday. The table went tense. The poor waitress arrived with a plate of calamari and practically backed away again after she felt the vibe. Hannah came back then, sat down, and froze. What did I miss? She asked, eyes flicking between us. Mia just told everyone I'm no contact with Mum and Dad, I said. I kept my tone flat, but my hands were shaking under the table. I curled them into fists. Hannah blinked. Okay, she said slowly. And she did it because she wants everyone to think I'm doing it for attention, I added. Mia scoffed again. Oh my God. Not everything is about you, she snapped. Auntie asked about Mum, I answered. There's answering, and then there's throwing me under the bus, I said. I could feel my temperature rising, pulse racing. You could have said, they're not talking right now, or it's complicated. You didn't have to add commentary. My uncle cleared his throat. Well, families fight, he said awkwardly. I'm sure it'll blow over. Except it's not a fight. It's an entire relationship pattern I opted out of. And now the whole table was treating it like I'd stormed out of a room in a huff instead of quietly stepping back before I had a breakdown. I'm not doing this for attention, I said, looking around the table because I needed at least one pair of eyes that wasn't either judging or uncomfortable. I'm doing it because years of screaming and guilt and walking on eggshells shredded my mental health. I didn't tell you guys because I wasn't ready to talk about it. That's all. Mia snorted. Don't make it sound so noble, she said. You love this. The drama. The pity. My chest compressed. A familiar shame rose up. The same flavor as when I'd cry as a kid and be told I was putting it on. If I loved drama, I would have replied to Mum's 8-paragraph email instead of letting her tell everyone I abandoned them, I said, sharper than I meant to. My aunt looked genuinely surprised. She said that. I nodded. Probably more. But that's the bit I saw before I stopped reading. Silence. Then Hannah, bless her, put her fork down. Okay, I'm going to say something, she said, because it's my birthday and I get to pick the vibe. We all looked at her. My name doesn't strike me as someone who does anything for attention, she said. She didn't even tell me this until I asked why she was so jumpy about her phone. If she says she needed space, I believe her, whether I understand it or not. Mia rolled her eyes. Of course you take her side. It's not about sides, Hannah said. It's about not outing someone's personal stuff in the middle of dinner. I could have cried just from having someone say that out loud. I didn't, but my throat did that painful tightening thing. Mia shrugged, lips tight. I could see she was winding up for another go, so I stood up. My chair scraped loud against the floor. I'm going to take a breather, I said. I half expected someone to grab my arm or tell me I was being dramatic. No one did. I walked outside, into the cool air, and leaned against the brick wall, breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth like Amanda taught me. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Hannah, even though we were 10 meters apart. You okay? Do you want me to come out or give you space? I typed back, I'm okay. Just need a minute. Sorry for the scene. She replied, you didn't cause the scene. Come back when / if you want, or I'll swing by later. After a few minutes, the adrenaline dip hit and I started shivering. I went back in, grabbed my bag, and caught Hannah's eye. I'm gonna head home, I said quietly. I'll call you tomorrow, she said, standing to hug me. Thank you for coming. On my way out, Mia hissed. There she goes, storming off so we all feel bad. I didn't take the bait. For once. I just said, you were the one who needed an audience, and left. Later that night, she sent a barrage of texts. Mia, nice performance tonight. Mia, Hope you got what you wanted. Mia. Everyone thinks you're crazy now, not just mom and dad. I stared at the screen for a long time. That old panic rose up. Fix it, explain, send her resources, convince her you're not the bad guy. Then I heard Amanda's voice in my head again. You are not responsible for managing other people's narratives about you. So I muted the conversation and put my phone face down. I sat there in my stupid little shoebox, fairy lights reflecting off the window, and cried. Not because I regretted going no contact, but because it's lonely being the one who steps out of the script. The next day, my aunt messaged me separately. Hey love, sorry about last night. That was a lot. If you ever want to talk about anything, I'm here. No judgment. I've noticed things over the years too, you know. You're not crazy. I stared at it and cried all over again. So no, I didn't cut my parents off for attention. I cut them off because I want to live long enough to maybe be a different kind of parent someday. I cut them off because I was starting to fantasize about getting into a minor car accident just so people would fuss over me, which is not a normal level of starved for care. I cut them off because the idea of my future kids hearing my dad's voice in the hallway and thinking, which version is home today, makes me feel sick. My sister thinks if she admits my reasons are valid, she has to look at her own pain. It's easier to paint me as the attention-seeking one than to admit we grew up in the same house and she also learned to flinch when someone sighs. I get that. I even have compassion for it on good days. But sitting at that table, hearing her accuse me of doing this for attention while literally broadcasting my most private decision to a group of people who didn't know, something clicked. She wasn't protecting our parents' reputation. She was protecting the story she's had to tell herself to cope. If I'm doing it for attention, she doesn't have to consider that maybe she deserves better too. I don't know what will happen with all of them. I'm still no contact with my parents. I'm low contact with Mia now too. Little memes, logistical stuff, but nothing deep. Maybe one day she'll soften. Maybe she won't. Maybe we'll never be close. What I do know is this. Keeping quiet never protected me the way I thought it did. It just kept everyone else comfortable. She's gonna keep telling people I cut them off for attention. That's out of my control. But I know why I did it. My therapist knows. My body, which has finally stopped waking me up at 3 a.m. every night, knows. And the next time someone at a family thing looks at me with that half-curious, half-judgy expression and says, "So, what happened with your mom and dad?" I think I'm just going to say, I needed to stop being hurt to get their attention. That's all. If they can't understand that, that's on them.